Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Mahalia Joseph and C News is live at noon.
And I'm Nusira Mohammed with sport.
Topping the news at this time, Route 1 yellow band Maxi taxis have increased their fares by $1. In a statement, the executive of the association said this was done after careful consideration and lengthy deliberations. It said it had no choice but to do this. All destinations from Port of Spain will be increased by $1 from $4 to $5. Short drops out of Port of Spain will also be increased by $1 from $3 to $4. Short drops within Diego Martin, Pitti Valley, Carenage and Maraval will however remain unaffected at $3. These new fares are to take effect from February 6, 2017. Meanwhile, the president of the association, Ian Hewitt, said this is the first increase in the fares for 8 years and he thinks it's justified. He said the increase in diesel price over the last year was one of the contributing factors to making the decision. The others include an increase in insurance and parts for their vehicles. He isn't too worried about an uproar from the traveling public.
We don't think so. We have been talking to the public. They are well aware of what is going on. When I say the public, not the general public, but people who ride in Maxi and are your customer per se, we would speak to them and it is pending, so we don't think so.
To some other news now, all autopsies have been done at the Forensic Science Center, with the exception of that of the headless body, which was found in Aruca over the weekend. No one has come forward to claim the body. C News was told that the post-mortems was done by pathologist Dr. Hugh Von de Veens on Monday after several delays as the assigned pathologist left for vacation. Relatives of the deceased expressed concern at what was taking place. Among them, former head of the National Operations Center, Gavin Hira, who said he was disappointed at the unavailability of pathologists to perform autopsies. A formal police complaint has been made to the Superior Police Station against the administrator at the Santa Flora Government ECCE Center. The Early Childhood Teachers Trade Union said this was done citing cruelty to minors under the Children's Act. It is being claimed that the teachers and children are forced to work in what is being described as a hazardous environment.
Came across the early childhood school, saw all the endangerment. Somehow or the other, her superiors called her and gave her certain instructions, and we are not seeing any charges being laid at this point in time. Just conversation taking place amongst the administrator and the police. When this morning I went there, there are supposed to be a charges being laid for allowing the children to come in an unsafe environment after the school was closed due to methane gas coming out from the sewer and all the other infractions.
C News was told for the past 3 weeks children have been falling ill, and if this matter isn't addressed by police, the union is willing to go further.
At this point in time, and some legal redress will have to take place here, as we are not seeing the children vacating the building. The place is flimsy, your people are here, they can smell it, you see, and yet still we have not seen anybody vacating the building.
The Islamic Ladies Social and Cultural Association says it is in support of protecting the child from HIV/AIDS and teenage pregnancy. However, it is questioning raising the marriage age to 18 years across all sectors is the way to go. According to the group's president, there were just over 540 teen marriages for the last 10 years. However, the period 2008 to 2015, there were 15,231 teen pregnancies.
We are not talking about the ones who are sexually active, right?
Okay.
They would be exposed to the same risk. I would add, not too long ago when it was World HIV/AIDS Day, the Minister of Health reported, and his concern was the increase in HIV/AIDS cases amongst teenagers. Where do you think this is coming from? The 548 who got married?
In 10 years.
In 10 years? No, right?
Maulana Siddiq Ahmad Nasir said based on these statistics, are children being protected? His one request is government leave the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act as it is.
If the US and UK and Canada and so many other countries can keep the age of marriage at 18 and have exceptions based on parental consent or parental and judicial consent, why are you saying that in Trinidad and Tobago we must not have any exceptions based on parental consent? We don't have judicial consent as yet. And do you know, in the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act, right, if the consent of the parents is not forthcoming, the child who wants to get married can petition the president of the country, the president of Trinidad and Tobago.
You're watching the C News Live Report at noon. Remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at C News Live. Chinmaya Mission of Trinidad and Tobago has added its voice to amendments to the Marriage Act, saying it is in support of the legal age to be made 18 years across all sectors. It said it is a retrograde step in this day and age to insist that the marriageable age for children should be less than 18. It questioned how a person under 18 would be able to make the most of the dramatic and life-changing decision about marriage. Umar Tnt leader Imam Rashid Karim says the ban on Muslims entering the U.S. will prove to be counterproductive in the long run, as it targets the most vulnerable in the world, as refugees are all religions fleeing war zones and natural disasters, and who are all seeking a better life for themselves and their families. The Imam condemns the recent executive order signed by U.S. President Donald Trump temporarily banning immigrants from 7 majority Muslim countries and suspending the entry of refugees for 120 days, calling it unjust, discriminatory, and goes against established American values and will do irreplaceable harm to country's image around the world. He wants the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, to immediately make a statement on behalf of the government of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, denouncing the actions of the U.S. President. About 100 people have received land leases for the first quarter of 2017. It was given to them by the Minister of Agriculture, Clarence Rabarat. According to him, these are a mix of residential and agricultural land leases, but are not leases to former Caroni 1975 limited workers. He said some leases of state land for residential purposes have been outstanding for 20 years, agricultural leases even longer. To some other news now, statements by the opposition leader that citizens should be allowed to own firearms to protect themselves and their families from criminal elements have sparked some discussion, some in agreement and others against. Former Minister of National Security Gary Griffith says what the opposition leader is saying is already law once they have met the requirements and their applications have been approved. Dion Batiste has more.
Opposition leader Kamla Prasad-Bisesa has opened a Pandora's box. So says former Minister of National Security Gary Griffith. He explains what Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa proposes in relation to citizens being allowed to own firearms to protect their families from criminal elements, saying it is already the law.
Persons have a right to acquire a firearm by applying to the Commissioner of Police to get a firearm user's license. What she has brought forward, though, is a serious situation that we have that is very complicated, in that for someone to get the firearm, you have to go through a process that is very outdated because of a colonial-style system that we still have, that one man and one man alone could be afforded, allow that opportunity for you to get one by the Commissioner of Police. That is the problem.
Mr. Griffith says persons are often made to wait years for their applications to be processed, even in cases where they meet all the requirements.
Because of the bureaucratic red tape, it means that the Commissioner alone will decide, whenever he decides to sift through it, he will then give them that approval. And during that period, they may have been involved in being a victim of crime, and that is because of the poor process we have right now.
The former National Security Minister said it is unfair to the populace to have at the helm of such issues a Commissioner of Police who is against citizens having the right to own firearms. He recommends the appointment of a board to process these applications.
There should be a board that would be able to ensure that these matters, when you apply, you can get an answer almost immediately. And more important, what we do not have, when these persons do get firearm users license, they are not monitored. There's no continuous evaluation to ensure that the person is of financial or domestic stability, that they can continue to keep a firearm. There's no monitoring to ensure that they remain, they do the proper training that is required, that the weapon remains secure if they move to another address. All of these things, we have it right now It is very blurred because of this outdated colonial-style system of a commissioner of police.
Mr. Griffith says the opposition leader's proposal should be seriously considered and duly addressed. Meanwhile, former Attorney General Gavin Nicholas took to social media where he shared his thoughts on the issue. He posted, "I think it is very important to stand up for what is believed to be the right thing for my country, even if it means facing criticism. I have listened to the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, but unfortunately I do not agree that either arming citizens or the hanging bill will bring about the solution to our crime problem." Mr. Nicholas proposed measures he believes would have a greater impact on the current crime situation. Among them, the decriminalization of drugs for personal use with the state in control of dispensing, the appointment of a police commissioner who is subject to performance appraisals by a parliamentary committee, and reforming the remand and prison system to rehabilitate instead of dehumanize. Dion Batiste, C News.
Now for a look at the weather forecast. Predominantly hot, sunny and breezy conditions with a 40% chance of the late afternoon and early evening shower in Trinidad. Tobago has a 70% chance for showers during the forecast period. Tonight will be mostly clear and cool with a light breeze at times. There is an urgent need to improve literacy competence in the nation's schools, according to the organization Moms for Literacy. They say the recent comments made by Dr. Lavelle Francis, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, at the opening of the Costard campus in Chaguanas, describing the failing and falling standard of literacy competence in the nation's schools as a crisis and is cause for grave concern by all citizens. The organization says a major factor to school violence is the great quantum of students who can't read. Moms for Literacy calls upon the Ministry of Education and other stakeholders to develop strategies to raise the level of literacy in our schools. Failure to do this will be very catastrophic. They are prepared to collaborate with other stakeholders. 3 prison administrative officers have been promoted to the rank of Deputy Commissioner of Prisons. They are William Alexander, Michael Walker and Cecil Duke. They were given their letters of appointment by Commissioner of Prisons Sterling Stewart. St. Joseph Convent, Port of Spain, launched its Covenant for Convent fundraising initiative this morning, a deed agreement designed to help persons donate funds to help improve the operations of the school. The institution recently celebrated its 181st anniversary, and through the Past Pupils Association, the new initiative will help cover the cost of its annual operating cost, which they say stands at $1 million. Former CEO of the Trinidad Chamber of Industry and Commerce, who is also a past pupil of SJC Port of Spain, praised the effort as she said, in tough economic times like these, institutions cannot depend solely on government for funding.
What has worked in the past will not continue to work for the future. It requires new thought, it requires new ideas and creativity. Given the tough economic times, what a great move and such innovation in developing the Covenant with Convent products.
Former principal of the school, Mrs. Elizabeth Crouch, says they also need to make better use of their resources. She pointed out the property on Oxford Street, which has been used as a car park facility.
When we paid $300,000 for that property, the plan had been to put something there, and so that is now about more than 30 years now, and there's nothing there. And I throw it out to the people behind this that we shouldn't just say that's a parking lot. You have to think big, and I'm very aware that the school I mentioned in the first instance, Snaprima Girls, have bitten the bullet and done some incredible things down in their compound.
The deed has been approved by the Board of Inland Revenue, and donors may also qualify for tax reduction based on their income levels. Defending Chutney Soca Monarch, Chris K.I. Passard says other than himself, his biggest challenge for this year's competition is Umar Tnt and his hit song Ram Singh Sharma. K.I., who is aiming to get his 4th CSM crown, entered the competition with his hit song K.I. Made Me Do It.
Myself. I'll give you another answer after. The reason I say myself is that because sometimes I tend to think too much into things, and the simplest things that will work so perfectly that I interfere with it. So every year I need to find that median and make sure I don't play with the simple things that are just 100% effective. And after that, I mean, we have a great year. My biggest challenger, I think, is Ramsing Sharma. You see that song, and Umar Tnt, and I'm so glad for him. He's part of our musical family.
On Monday, his 9 challengers were announced, and on the night of the final competition, on February 11th, each artist will have 8 minutes to perform. According to KI, this isn't as easy as just singing for the crowd.
We spend our time, I sit down literally with a pencil or a pen, a normal paper, and I just draw out, I script out in boxes what's going to happen 1 minute, what's going to happen the second minute, the third minute, what do we revisit from the first minute, what do we keep, what do we get rid of, what do we add to the stage. So it's a lot of work.
And we have some major news coming out in the world of sport, Nasira.
Certainly, Mahalia, it's been breaking news that happened a short while ago. Andre Russell has been given a ban in cricket. Just coming to hand, West Indies cricketer Andre Russell was a short while ago banned for 12 months by the independent anti-doping disciplinary panel, starting on January 31st, 2017, which is today, and ending January 30th, 2018. This after breaching the World Anti-Doping Agency Code by being negligent about filing his whereabouts. Russell failed to file his whereabouts form on 3 occasions in 2015, which under WADA rules equates to 1 failed doping test, and subject to a 2-year ban if necessary. The sentence was handed down at the Jamaica Conference Center earlier this morning. And stay with C News and C Sports throughout the day, where we'll have full details in our 7 p.m. news tonight. And moving on to other news now, the TTFA president confirmed that the chairman of the TTFA's technical committee, Dexter Skeen, and 2 other members, Alvin Henderson and Errol Lavelle, had resigned following the appointment of coach Dennis Lawrence.
The technical committee resigned, as well as 2 members from the technical committee.
Did they give any reason?
No, they didn't give any reasons.
The TTFA president also confirmed that the players who played in the matches under former coach Tom St. Feet have not been paid, but stand to be compensated in the coming weeks.
No, the players have not been paid as yet, but they will be paid within the coming weeks.
Turning to some boxing news now, Sheldon Lawrence produced another masterful performance to turn back Nigel Cow Edwards in their much-hyped 10-rounder for the FICA box title. Edwards had no answer for the measured attack from Lawrence, who won by TKO in the 8th round. Ruskin Mark watched it all unfold.
From the first bell, Lawrence went to work on Edwards with a measured approach that was impressive as much as it was decisive. He had little by way of return fire, so he just picked his spots and proceeded to dominate the fight. By now, Edwards became a bit desperate and started to press the fight, hoping to land something at this stage. The desperation made Edwards the hunter as he tried to force the pace, hoping to corner Lawrence and then tee off on him. But even when things got heated, Lawrence found a way through to get the better of the exchanges as he took a decisive lead in the fight. And showing his smarts, Lawrence kept out of harm's way and proceeded to pound the body with a series of solid shots, while also showing off his hand speed. It seems Cow figured out a way to get Lawrence on the canvas, but it was only a temporary reprieve from the beating that he was getting. Because once they were upright, the beating resumed as Lawrence now felt the urgency to finish the fight. And by this stage, Edward looked spent, and it was just a matter of time before it would end. And Lawrence didn't waste too much time after that, as in the 8th round he caught Edwards coming in and struck him flush with a straight right that rocked him, and he never recovered as Lawrence finished him off. Edwards tried to beat the count, but the referee wisely waved off the fight, and Lawrence had his victory via a TKO. And is now the proud holder of the FICA box title as he upped his record to an impressive 10-1. Ruskin Mark, C Sports.
From the ring onto the water, and the TNT Powerboats Association held its first regatta of the year for the national championships, which consisted of 5 events. 14 boats in the 60, 70, 80, 95 and 130 miles per hour classes raced, including 2 newcomers, Trident and Timeless. In the first session, Vortex dominated its competitors in Mr. Solo and Iron Man in the 130 mile per hour class, comfortably winning both the sprint and circuit races. In the 95 mile per hour, Sheriff Lobo won all races, while his main rival, Chris Gone Wilder, had technical issues in the second session. The 80 miles per hour was full of excitement as it was some close racing between Outlaw, Heatwave and Papi Chulo, before Outlaw came out on top. A similar thing happened in the 70 mile per hour class, with Chris Gone Wild getting the better of their opponents, Extreme Measures and Fire Chief 2. In the 60 miles per hour, newcomer Trident won all of their races as their rival Timeless failed to start 3 of the 4 events. Well, that was your sport for today.
And that's the scene news at noon. I'm Mahalia Joseph.
And I'm Nasira Mohammed.
Remember, for up-to-date and breaking news throughout the day, you can visit the C News website at ctvtt.com. Have a good afternoon.